So when you're driving the BLOKESWORLD Falcon wagon, it's not so much that you take a corner, it's more that you make an appointment with the corner, right? Because this thing's got so much weight in it, it's like, all right, it's 250 now, so I'm coming up to turn 1, I'm gonna have to sort of get the weight over here now. So you start turning, it's like, roar, and hopefully you've timed it so that the weight's on the outside wheels as you're turning in, right? You've got a good couple of seconds after you turn to when she starts to go, oh, that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I don't have any racing experience at all. I've got maybe 2 hours in a sprint kart and no time at all in a real car on a real racetrack with real gear and all of this stuff. And so, bit of a lack of experience. Just like all the other guys, the first view of the track was my lap 1 coming out of the pits. Jesus Christ, I am not ready for this. So once I started getting more comfortable, I had it in my head that I was braking too early, so I actually started trying to brake later and later, and I think I might have overdone the braking a bit, because after a while I started to develop some pretty serious brake fade. And then a couple of corners I took a little bit deep and the brake fade got worse and worse. I started smelling brake pads, and then I just stomped it into the end of turn 1 again and locked it up. I wasn't trying to go hard. Everyone thinks I was trying to go hard, and I was just trying to stop the freaking thing, and scored myself a bit of a reputation as a bit nuts.
Yeah, camera 3, hell, an aggressive little driver, but can steer a wheel.
So it's a right-hand track, and there's really only one left-hander. And once I started taking that left-hander at an appropriate speed, every time I came around the corner, the engine had cut out. And so I come around this corner, go to accelerate, power out of the corner and get nothing, and just have cars streaming past. It's so loud in there that you can't really distinguish it from the other engines that are barreling past you at full throttle, you know. And so it took me a bit to figure out what was going on. And, you know, I had it in my head. I know that from the fuel pump problems we had, knowing that fuel pump was on the left side of the car, and we've got a stock fuel tank in the car, which is allowed in Lemons, and I'm just picturing all the fuel going over to the right-hand side of the car, away from the pump, away from the pickup, and starving it of fuel and conking out. And so I did a few more laps, and then finally she conked out completely. I couldn't get it started again. Rolled very slowly to a stop, and there was a nice little like BLOKESWORLD stopping lane right there for me. Thank God. Nissan Navara comes out, the yellow lights go on, everyone gets to have a laugh at the BLOKESWORLD car getting towed in. So I'm getting towed in, and of course being power brakes, the brakes are getting heavier and heavier. Combine that with the brake fade I've apparently added to this thing, I'm like, shit. I'm going to plough into the back of this Navara in the race car. And that's going to go on telly. And as someone who's driven a few Fords in my life, I knew this was happening. Turned the ignition on to get the brake pedal back and fired her up. Up she went, started up. So then I had this dilemma. Do I leave it in idle while I'm being towed in behind the Navara? With everyone wondering why you're getting towed in if your engine's running. I thought, no, I'll switch it off. So I pulled in, explained everything to Mick's the expert. He knows what's going on. Brownie's immediately identified what's going on, you know, when I tell him the symptoms of what's happening. So we've hooked around the back way to the refueling area, filled it back up with fuel. I got to do another 8 or 10 laps with a full fuel tank, handled the left-hand turn without losing fuel, and everything was golden.
Welcome back to BLOKESWORLD. Right now, let's head down to Goulburn for the racing of the 24 Hours of Lemons.
I originally met Ado through, he came to one of our local car shows, and so he rang me up when he had this Lemons thing on the go and said, this is what we're doing. I've got a guy to do the cage, I want a mechanic, and we're going to look at a car. Are you interested? And yeah, I had to do a bit of research to see what the Lemons was all about. Sounded interesting, and thought, yeah, it sounds like a bit of me. I got onto the team. We had our cage guy, we had our graphics guy, and we had the two prima donnas from BLOKESWORLD. It turned up looking nice and adding very little to the concept of the build. But when we seen Ado go out, we thought it was like driving Miss Daisy. We've been passed by every car bar the Type 3 Volkswagen. Unbeknownst to us, Ado was actually being a bit conservative, so there was a bit left in the car for the rest of us. Since it's been a pretty big build, he didn't want to take all the fun out of it and let none of us have any fun, so we appreciate that. And none of us had been on the track before, so we needed a few laps just to come up with what the track looked like, felt like. Camera 3, he got into it a bit more. Looked like he was a racer until he ran it out of fuel. That was our first refueling experience. Then it was my turn. I got into the car after camera 3 had cooked the brakes. Lucky I got out under a yellow flag, so the first 4 or 5 laps were under the yellow flag. Got inside all the corners a few times, see what it was like, check a few braking points. Taking it steady for a few laps and then decided just to get a couple of quick ones in, see what it was capable of. Got to a 128, so I was pretty happy with that. Backed it out to 132 so we could save a bit of car for someone else. Then we had Brownie on the scene, and being the true competitive sportsman that he is, he went out and started doing 126s. So even though the car's running a little rougher than we'd like, it's got a bit in it, so it's a good fun car. We can get it to the end of the weekend, it'll be awesome.
CQBBBB, just 45 minutes inland from Mackay, an absolutely cracking weekend. Anyway, right now let's head down to Goulburn and catch up with Team BLOKESWORLD in their Killed by Death station wagon as we check in with what's happening at the 24-hour Lemons race.
I've said it a million times, this is the best thing we've ever done. Well, we've been going hard all day because the car's actually on 6 cylinders today and it is just powering. I mean, it sounds mean, it looks mean, I mean, it looks fast today. I mean, everyone's taking, I took 20 seconds off my lap time and everyone else is taking like 10 to 15 seconds off their lap time from yesterday.
So Ado got this sweet as mirror lens for his helmet, but I think it was reflecting in the mirrors in the car and the rear view and confusing him. Maybe the mirror was on the inside.
Between myself, Mick and camera 3, well, between you two, you destroyed a set of brake pads, then I destroyed the next set of brake pads, and then Brownie just had to go out with 0 brakes. And I saw him do a donut. Oh man, it's just, I haven't laughed so much in a weekend, and it's just so good because leading up to this, it's been just so stressful. Trying to get the car here, trying to organise, 6 other blokes, because it's just normally me and camera 3 that make the show. So it's been a big roller coaster of a ride, but once the car got on the track this morning, every minute, every dollar, absolutely worth it. Bucket list ticked. Once again, I started off as first driver this morning. I got locked in the car nice and early, went out to the track, and as soon as I left pit lane, it just sounded throaty. It just sounded like a big angry XR. It was just this big ugly sound, and because you're in a station wagon, there's so much room in there, so the sound just sounds amazing. And I'm just driving around, and I remember yesterday when we arrived, we missed practice, so my first ever drive in a car race was on the grid, and I didn't know where the second turn after the first one was. So I was basically looking in my mirror all the time, trying to keep out of everyone's way and letting people through and, you know, being Mr. Nice Guy. Well, today I lived up to my status as being a Gemini, because today I was the complete opposite of yesterday. I was shutting down the door, I was squealing. I mean, I was laughing to myself in the car. I was getting all emotional. It's been such a road trip here. It was, I can't even put it into words, but to actually be in a station wagon and hear it purring and just bounce it off like ripple strips that'll just shoot you into the next corner. And we've invested that much in that roll cage. It's probably 2 ton more metal than we need in there. So when we're out there, it's like a caravan. So it's like you're in a corner like this, but when you come out, other cars go like that. This thing just flicks you. If anything, this is the first car I've been in and nearly been seasick. I mean, I can't even, I mean, yesterday compared to today, even the boys next door to us, they came in and said, what the hell? Like, I was shutting down the door. Like, if you wanted to come on the inside of me, you weren't coming through. And with a station wagon, you've got a long way to get around, you know. We put a new gearbox seals in as well, which meant today there was a lot more whacking it down and using engine braking, which was awesome. I can't put it into words. It's just, I don't understand why for the last 16 years making BLOKESWORLD, we've been filming other people racing. Excuse me, Dougie. Is it all right with you if we go to commercial break?
Yeah, mate, no problem.
No worries. See you after this.
And welcome back to BLOKESWORLD. Right now we're going to head down to Goulburn. It's day 2 of the 24-hour race. That's right, they split it across 2 days. You race 12 hours each day. Right now, let's check in with camera 3.
What I was doing wrong on the Saturday was I've been in totally the wrong gear for pretty much the whole track. Changing up at about 3,500 RPM because we didn't have the rev gauge. I didn't want to blow the motor up, so I was changing up way too early. I was going up the hill after turn 1 and 2, up the hill in 3rd gear. That was wrong. And that's probably costing me 5 seconds of the 14 seconds I've made up with my lap time today. So barreled down out of the pits, merged nicely with a few cars, and it was on. I was in the right gear for turn 1, 2nd gear all the way up the hill.
Adam's in the car.
Keeping up with the traffic this time. I'd already had that left then right at the top of as you approach the top of the hill. I had them pretty sus, but I'd been in the wrong gear for those as well. And then the entire top of the hill becomes one big corner. Full tilt, station wagon's leaning over 20 degrees, back into 3rd down the hill, and I'd had that downhill section sussed as well. And after that, the whole thing's just a big blur. I know there was screaming. I was tearing up at one point. I'm just feeling a bit now because it's just been the best day of my life. We've come to this racetrack. We've had an average day on the Saturday. We've all sat around getting to know each other because the whole time that you guys have been building the car, I've been in the studio editing our Erzberg series, and so I didn't even get to have that sort of working on the car nights. And you know, I just got to watch it on Instagram like everyone else, so I sort of missed out a bit there. But you know, hanging with all these guys and going through this experience at the same time, getting today's game plan sorted out, and just everything working 100%. You know, yesterday I fried the brakes. Everyone knows that.
We had some nice fat chunky brake pads on there. 13 laps later, metal on metal.
I was using the brakes to stop the car and, you know, sort of giving it a blip on the throttle to look after the clutch and make sure the drivetrain was all right. This time, bang it back in a second, modulate the clutch out because the brakes seem to be biased to the front. So if you're braking, you're going to understeer and just plough forward, scrub the front tyres. But by pulling the clutch out at the same time, you're getting more braking on the rear wheels. That gets the back out. All of a sudden, you've just got the whole car balanced around those corners on entry instead of just trying to get slow enough to power out of it. So all of a sudden, it's a whole new car, it's a whole new driver. And I think I put in a couple of laps that I was really happy with. But the main thing was, because yesterday we were the roadblocks, we were slowing everyone up. You weren't fast enough to get a handle on the track. And by having that extra 6th cylinder in the car working, so we had more power, all of a sudden you weren't constantly being overtaken. It gave us the time to learn the racing line. And so, you know, then the maths kicks in, okay? On that left-hand turn, I was actually approaching quite fast and then going out wide, so I was sacrificing a bit of speed to turn around the left-hander and using that extra momentum to get, you know, hopefully more seconds off up the top part of the hill. So hopefully that worked out. I don't know if it did or not, but something worked. I just spat everywhere. It's a bit of an effort. It's like putting a band together. It's like, you know, organising a party. But everyone knows someone who either has the skills or has Google. Tools are cheap these days. All you've got to do is come to a Lemons race. Any person in any pit bay will be happy to tell you everything they know. And there's guys around here in these pits that know it all. And they will tell you everything you need to know. They'll take you under their wing. Just come here, meet the people, realise that if you're not here, you're missing out. Get yourself a car.
Best weekend of our lives.
Yeah, this was so mint. Well, viewers, we've got a yellow flag right now, so it's time to go to commercial break. This is the best day of my life. See you after these messages. Woo! Yeah!
I'm telling you right now, viewers, the 24-hour Lemons race, it's an absolutely cracking way to spend a weekend. Anyway, right now we're going on a commercial break. We'll see you after these messages for more Blokes World.